Alright, here's hoping I don't have to push this video back any more than I already have. My schedule's been so weird lately, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm recording this really late at night on the night before it's supposed to go up. In fact, we're coming up on midnight. I don't even know how to explain how weird my schedule's gotten. It should be settling back into place. It's very strange. That said, I don't really have a ton to say about this one, so we should be okay. Okay. Must be midnight. Anyway, today I'm giving my 2 cents on Huntik, Secrets and Seekers, a show that I do remember watching a little bit when I was younger. And yet, going into it, I looked at some of the character designs and they were kind of familiar to me. But going into it, I remembered nothing at all about this show. I had this kind of vague impression that it was going to feel like Pokemon if it was trying to be really serious. And that's kind of what it is. But just out of the gate, I didn't like this one. I know it was recommended to me recently, based off some of the stuff I've been talking about recently. I think, I'm not 100% sure, I don't remember when it was recommended to me exactly. But I just didn't really, I didn't really feel this one. And it's so weird, because watching the first episode of the show, that is the only one I ended up watching, and I'll talk about why in a second. It was easily one of the most manic things I've ever seen in my life. And the rushed nature of it, and the fact that because it was so rushed, everything felt very superficial, it kind of reminded me of the start of Witch, which I talked about relatively recently. But weirdly, coincidentally, it's actually from the same creator as the Winx Club show, the other show that I talked about at the same time, roughly, as Witch, and thought was better handled. And I still think it was better handled for the most part. Everything from the pacing to the way the relationships were handled to the character designs in this show reminded me so much of what I have watched so far of Witch. I honestly thought I was going to go look up the studio that made this show and find out it was the same one. And it wasn't. And I probably sound like I'm really digging hard at this show. I didn't hate it either. Just because I didn't really love it doesn't mean I thought it was terrible. It's just, man, a lot happened in this 20 minutes. So much happened. It was utterly ridiculous. I watched through this episode twice preparing for this review, and I am 100% sure I missed stuff. And I don't just mean like one or two things, I mean stuff. A pretty decent chunk of stuff. Like, there's no status quo in this show. It doesn't even take, like, the first 5 or 6 minutes to establish the status quo. Stuff just happens immediately. The main character, Locke, I believe was his name. I didn't think he was very interesting, honestly. Is thrown into this magical world immediately. Like, it starts with a dream sequence where we see that he likes puzzles and has an adventurous mind and is very imaginative. And then, boom, he's asking a girl from his class to help him study because he fell asleep in class. And then, boom, they're back at his dorm. And then, boom, something that she does causes him to accidentally stumble upon a journal and a magic amulet. And then, boom, in the same shot almost, some weird suited agents are there for the journal and the amulet that's been there in his dorm forever. Like, not literally, but for a long time. He just didn't know about it. And he's only just now found out they exist, and suddenly these people are here looking for it? What? And then boom, there's a chase, and then boom, a name is dropped, Dante Vale, and then boom, it turns out this girl is more capable than we thought, and then boom, these people have magic powers, and so does she, and so does the kid, and then it just continues like that until we get to Dante, and he actually starts to explain a few things to us. We find out that there's this group, the Huntik organization, or something along those lines, that opposes the villain group that sent these suits after him, and that these amulets, the little amulet he found alongside the journal is one of these amulets, allow you to connect with these ancient titans, and that gives you special powers, and the bad guys want the journal and this specific amulet that this kid has, and now he's part of this world whether he wants to be or not. And on one hand, him getting swept up in all of this is kind of cool, because I imagine, I feel very much like he must have in that moment. So much changed for him so quickly that I'm sure he wasn't really able to keep up. So if they wanted to get me into the mindset of the character, it worked. But considering how discombobulated that character must have been by the end of this episode, that's not really a mindset you want your audience in when you're trying to sell them a show with the first aired episode. Like, just straight up, the first 8 minutes of this show, I could probably give you a 6-episode arc made up of just the stuff that happened here. Like, I would have established a status quo where we got to see a day in the life of this main character, where we would have gotten to see what relationship he had with the girl Sophie ahead of all of this, where it was established that the kid's dad was important to him, because the whole thing is he lost his dad 10 years ago. This is his dad's journal, an amulet. He has this clue now as to what happened to his dad, but then the journal is damaged and suddenly he doesn't anymore. It's yanked right out from under him. Seriously, all of this happens in one episode. It's absolutely nuts. But I would have hinted at that. I would have hinted at the dad. And then I would have eased the audience into some of this by the end, implied some of it by the end. Maybe I even would have had Sophie come by to help him study and recognize that the thing that the journal was hidden in might be a thing that's hiding something important. So now she wants to get close to this kid to find out more about whatever this is. They start to build a rapport that, while it's based on this selfish desire of hers, it starts to become more genuine over time. But then the villains are slinking around in the background, and this Dante character is around, because Dante is also like a private eye. So maybe once they find out about this clue to his dad, he takes it to Dante and wants Dante to help him find his dad using these clues. But we're not sure if we can trust Dante yet. And I wouldn't have even shown any of the summoned creatures in the first episode. I would have taken it slow. But what we got is the exact opposite of that. And I just didn't enjoy it. Like, I understand this show came out during an era of television where it was competing with things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and stuff at their prime. I understand that the writers, the producers on this would have felt the need to establish their mythos as quickly as possible. But sometimes what you feel like you need isn't what you need. I genuinely believe that this show would have been objectively better if it had turned this introductory mess into an introductory arc. And that's not to say this was all bad. First of all, the theme to this show is a genuine bop. It's fantastic. And there are moments where this show is interesting, or where the action is really solid, or where the mythos starts to hook you. But there are less moments where this show shines, and more moments where a better show pokes its head up through the chaos that is this first episode. And that's why I stopped at the end of the first episode. Even though it's technically a to be continued, we would have gotten some resolution in the next one. Because I was so exhausted after watching this. I just couldn't stomach the thought of sitting down and watching another one right now. And I may go back and watch more of this show, because I do know people really liked it. So I'm assuming it starts to take its time a little more once all this stuff is established, and maybe it grows into something really great once it does. But just as it stands, it's too much. And I don't think I would have watched this show as a kid, except that I know 100% I did not catch the first few episodes back when it first aired. I started on like episode 5 or something, because I went through and I read some synopses of the episodes, and that's the first one that really seemed even slightly familiar to me. So I don't know what else to say about this one. I don't begrudge anyone who did enjoy this show back when it was first airing, obviously. If this is one of your old faves, more power to you. I just don't feel like it's ever gonna reach those heights for me, at least not at this point in my life. But what lore and mythos we did get implies treasure seeking and puzzle solving and high action and fantasy and magic. So if those are the kinds of things that appeal to you, I'd at least give the show a shot, right? I don't think it's so bad that you should avoid it completely. But either way, that's been my 2 cents on the first episode of Huntik, Secrets and Seekers. A Seeker is Born, I believe, was the title of this specific episode. If you would like me to watch more, recommend that I do so, I guess. And I will try to get around to it. I don't know if I'll cover them, but I'll at least give it a shot, right? If you insist that it gets better, if you insist that it grows into something that I would enjoy better, I'll try to get around to giving it a try. And in the meantime, as per usual, I'd like to know, what do you think of this episode and this show? If you have seen them, let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe. If you haven't, you can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.